Here with us today, we have 2012 Echoing Green Fellow Anushka from myAgro to speak about her experience applying for the fellowship and to answer some questions. Anushka created the Kiva Fellows program at kiva.org and was Director of Core Programs and Innovation with myAgro Fund. She lived in rural Kenya for 3 years and has lived in Mali since 2011. She received her BA in Literature from UC Santa Cruz. At myAgro, Anushka helps small-scale farmers get the tools they need to double farm harvests by saving up for fertilizer and seed through an SMS layaway system. Farmers register with myAgro for their planting goal next season and purchase their cards at their local store whenever they have extra money towards their planting goal. Thanks for joining us today, Anushka. We'll start with some questions. So the first question, how did you prepare for your Echoing Green application? What did you find to be particularly helpful while you were working on it? Anushka?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. So Decker, what I did to prepare was I asked a few people who had applied before, and the feedback I got was that it's really important to have a very clear message of what I do and why. And so I drafted my responses to the essay questions, and then I got feedback from people who were, a few people who knew what I was doing and a few people who were just really good writers. Friends of mine, to give feedback and help me tone down the message and make it really clear so I could focus on 2 to 3 things that I really wanted to communicate about the program and made sure that that was consistent throughout the application. So drafting it, and I went through about 3 different versions before I submitted an application.
Oh, great, great. So what do you think, what do you see as one of the greater obstacles for female social entrepreneurs, and how have you dealt with some of these obstacles?
It's interesting. I've had the opportunity to work with some amazing women, both at Kiva and myAgro Fund, and some amazing men as well. And I found that some of the guys are more willing to take the first step, take the first leap, than some of my women colleagues. And so maybe it's just that, maybe it's our own mental block, taking the first step. But in general, I think the social enterprise sector is really eager to have women leaders who are experienced and who can lead decisively and tackle really big problems. So it's a great time to try and develop a new organization if you think it's going to work. So I guess I think this is a really great time to be a woman and to be a leader. I think the obstacles are really, you know, just in our, I guess, our own mental blocks, as well as, you know, sometimes being a leader can be lonely, and so having a really great network of friends and other women you can count on to help you work through the issues as you develop your program is really important.
Did you take any of that into account as you were putting together your application? Like, did you include any of those, some of the thoughts you just shared?
Let's see. You know, in order to even craft the application, I went through a year of research just figuring out, you know, my idea. I had a sense that farmers would really like to save up for fertilizer and seed, and I spent a year thinking about it, and then I spoke to a lot of the women in my network. I had a management coach who was an amazing woman. I spoke to my mom. I spoke to other women colleagues working at myAgro Fund or in other organizations in Kenya and elsewhere. And so all of that feedback and all of those discussions went into the final application.
Okay. Kind of building off one of the last parts of your answer, where did you look for mentors? And so with people online looking to apply, what advice would you give them? What networks did you use to find mentors? Are there networks or organizations that have been really helpful? You mentioned one of your mentors as a management consultant, but what ways were mentors helpful to you?
Mentors were incredibly helpful because, so for example, one of the first things I did that helped me realize that this project could actually work was I created a budget, and I had never created a budget before. So I went to the finance director at One Acre Fund, and he helped me create my budget. And so I think looking at your own network and looking at your friends and looking at the skills they bring, maybe they don't wear a mentor hat, but there are people who have resources and skills that maybe you don't, and you can reach out to them. And I think all of us have friends who are also equally committed to making lives better, and so people are usually really willing to help when they can.
Great, thank you, thank you. As a young woman, what skills would have you developed? But what skills do you also think that people should be developing, specifically women, to be successful in this field of social enterprise?
Let's see. So in general, I think it's great to get experience in the field that you want to work in. So if you're still in school, start volunteering with an organization that does what you want to do or works with a population that you want to work with. Because there's nothing as good as getting on-the-ground experience with the customers that you want to eventually work with. And so that's general advice. In terms of being a leader, I found it really helpful to work on communication. So for example, maybe we want to do 20 things in our organization, but that's really hard for someone who's learning about your idea for the first time to comprehend. And it actually seems like too much for one person to handle. So being able to focus your communication on 2 or 3 clear points that you want to communicate, that's the core of what your program does, will be really, really effective in attracting resources and getting people behind your idea.
Okay. In what other ways have you tried to be helpful to social entrepreneurs, other female social entrepreneurs coming behind you?
That's a good question. So something that I do, and I started at Kenya with some of my women colleagues, was that we started, forget what we called it, Women of Kenya, something really broad, but basically to get women who were interested in social entrepreneurship to create a network amongst ourselves. And I think the idea was really small. We just wanted to get women to come meet in Kisumu, which is a small town, and have a weekend together just to socialize and get to know each other, and serve as resources later on. And that's something that I did immediately as soon as I came to Bamako in Mali. I find it really, really helpful to meet women, even if they're not necessarily working in your specific area, as friends, as resources, as just it broadens your network, which will help you in more ways than you know at that time.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to turn back to myAgro for a second, and I wanted to ask you, where did you find your earliest round of funding? What were some of the challenges in finding that first round of money, and do you have any tips for people online?
Yeah. So I was really fortunate. My first funder was One Acre Fund, my employer. They were really behind me and the idea and really excited. That said, I needed to raise over $100,000, and I'd never done that before, so I needed to find other funders. And the way that happened was just being really receptive to feedback and talking to anyone I could. And I'm actually, I'm extroverted once I know people, but I'm pretty extroverted normally. And so I actually created a checklist for myself that every week I would have to speak to 3 new people in different areas. So going and meeting someone who's the head of the agricultural program, or going and having lunch with someone at USAID, or just making it part of my work plan that I had to go and meet people. Because the more I talked about myAgro, the more comfortable I became speaking about the idea, the more feedback I got, so I could improve my messaging and also improve the program. And continued to do that. And really the last bit of funding came in late this summer. So I think, again, thanks to Echoing Green. So it takes a long time, and it's really important not to give up. If you really believe in your idea, the funding might not come in the first month you start. It might come in the 12th month. So it's just important to keep going at it.
Okay. This question is often linked with funding, but what was your biggest challenge with myAgro, and how did you overcome it?
I mean, the biggest challenge is fundraising. I'm based in Mali, so I have limited time in the U.S. So I try to squeeze in as many meetings as I can, which sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. It takes a lot of planning, but again, it's really important. So prioritizing, I just again put it into my work plan that I needed to prepare for an upcoming U.S. trip, and then would send out emails regularly to my network saying I'm looking to meet with these people or these people with these kinds of resources, and then just continue to work at it. Fundraising was definitely tough. Mali also went through a coup, which I don't think most people will go through. So that was an unexpected challenge, but we survived it.
Well, thank you. So returning to the application, did you have any current or former Echoing Green Fellows review your application before you applied?
I did. David Auerbach from Sanergy in Kenya and Raj Punjabi from Tatian Health. They both offered to review my application, and we actually talked about what I should write, and that's the feedback that I got earlier that I mentioned, which was have two or three things that I want to communicate and make sure that that's really clear. Use bullet points. Try and use the space as efficiently as possible, which really means editing a lot.
Mm-hmm. And do you find that they gave you different types of advice, or was there kind of a trend or common elements of the advice that they gave you?
I'm trying to think, though. It's a while back now. I think it was a general trend that have a very clear communication plan of what you do, and I think another piece of feedback, and I also would give this to all of you guys on the webinar. It's really important to have a very clear business plan. Have a short mission statement, and then really explain what you're trying to do, and then have someone who doesn't know your business read it and tell it back to you. So I think that will give you invaluable feedback as well.
Cool. So another question I have is, how long did you know about Echoing Green before you applied, and what is it like to be an Echoing Green Fellow?
I knew about Echoing Green probably from the time I started working at Kiva 5 years ago, and I would anticipate learning about the new fellows, and would go through and learn about the organizations, and it is incredibly exciting and an honor to be an Echoing Green Fellow. It was definitely something. I remember last year, the year before I became an Echoing Green Fellow, another group from Mali was chosen as Echoing Green Fellows. I was really, really excited. And so it's really exciting to be part of the Echoing Green family. It's helped me immensely.
What did you wish you knew before you started the fellowship?
I have to say I have really great mentors, and I had a really great network of people who had gone through the fellowship, so I feel like any question I had was answered. I'm trying to think. I think so. The question I asked my friends who were Echoing Green Fellows was, what should I do to make sure I maximize this fellowship while I have it for the next 2 years. And the advice they gave me was to really get to know the people, get to know the staff, participate in activities, and get to know the other fellows, both the fellows in our class as well as previous fellows, because they're going to be an amazing lifelong network of people who are supporters and potential partners, and just great people in general who care passionately about what they're doing, and that's always a really exciting group of people to be a part of.
Can you talk about how Echoing Green has helped you both personally and organizationally?
Sure. So personally, I think it's given me a lot more confidence. I think I was the only fellow who messed up during my 1-minute pitch in front of everyone. But then from that I'm a much better presenter. I know what I need to do in order to prepare and present well. So that's been great personally. Organizationally, as soon as I got the Echoing Green Fellowship, I got other funders on board, which was fantastic, and came at a time that we really needed the funds. And it's just helped in many ways. One of the Echoing Green Fellows from my class is now one of our partners. Taylor Downs from Vera Solutions is building a database system for myAgro, which is fantastic. I've reached out to past fellows as resources. I've seen them at other conferences, so it's always nice to see a face that you can go up and immediately start a conversation. And then we send funny emails to each other, which is a really great way to just relax. We know that people are going through similar leadership or hiring or whatever kind of struggle it is, and we've become good friends.
Great answer. Back to the application. Which question on the Echoing Green application was the hardest, and how did you decide to answer it?
Oh, Decker. I need to look at the application again. I mean, they're all really tough because they have such small limits. I remember, you'd have to remind me of the questions. I'm sorry. I do remember there was one question that my friend gave me feedback on, which was, like, what do you like to do beyond, or what's your passion beyond your work, or something along those lines towards the end. And so I wrote a generic answer around traveling, and he was like, Anushka, you need to like look at all the other questions that are being asked, like, what other things would you move to Mali to do? And so I wrote about supporting women entrepreneurs.
Okay. What stage was myAgro before you applied for the fellowship?
I had just started. So I applied in December, I believe, and we launched myAgro in October. So it had just started. We had enrolled only 40 farmers out of our goal of 200. I had put in a lot of research beforehand, but it was really small.
Okay. So thank you very much for answering some questions.